get cracking. Welcome to today's Leadership Live with me, Nathan Simmons, Senior Leadership Coach, Trainer and Consultant. And as always, super excited to be here, super excited to be sharing. And I've got some core ideas, some complementary concepts that are going to help to shift your leadership in a very different way. Now, you may have seen elements of these models. You may have even seen parts of them taught in certain kinds of ways. But for those that have seen my trainings or have been coached by me, you'll understand that I'm teaching uncommon skills in uncommon ways that are getting incredible results. So today we're going to combine two ideas that are going to help to shift your leadership just up a whole new level of approach and you know, different choice of vocabulary and the questioning of how you get people to be the best possible versions of themselves, over deliver for themselves. And as always, and I always say when we're talking about coaching or feedback, who is the most important person in the conversation? It's always them. So if you're helping the people in your team be successful, you will be successful as a result. It cannot be the other way around. It's not all about me, me, me. It's all about them, them, them. And that as each individual grows and develops and becomes more successful, the team becomes more successful. So it's important that we do this. And what we're going to be looking at is two concepts, two leadership ladders that are going to help you to shift that language in order to help that person get a better viewpoint of themselves and create more successes for themselves. So it's really important we do that. That's what we're looking at today. We're going to be looking at the competency ladder as one, and we're going to be looking at the leadership ladder, which is a different model from a great, incredible thinker called David L. Marquet. I'm going to share that concept with you as well. So, but first of all, let's do the housekeeping as always. Has everyone got their mobile phones with them? Everyone make sure they've got their mobile phones. Phones out. Let's switch on the little aeroplane. No doubt you're probably in lockdown, so you're probably at home, so everyone knows where you are anyway, so it's absolutely fine. So, and as we're recording here, I'll be recording this session here. I'll also be putting it onto YouTube. So if you're watching this on replay on YouTube, please don't forget, do remember to subscribe to the channel to make sure you stay up to date with notifications. New content or new interviews are getting uploaded there as well. Super important we do this. Let me make sure that we're going to copy that link in again for next week's session. If you have not already signed up for next week's session, or you're watching this before then in YouTube as well, the link will be below, or it's in the chat box at the moment, to make sure you sign up for next week's session as well. It can all be about, it's all about setting more impactful goals that are going to get you more incredible results. So we're going to be looking at that as well next week. Brilliant. What else? Fresh page, get a fresh sheet of paper for fresh thinking. Let's make sure we haven't got any clutter in front of us. We haven't got any distractions. We've closed the email. We've closed the apps. We've killed the phone off. Any thought that comes, or anything that you want to remember that I'm sharing with you, an idea that pops up, something you want to reread, or something can reignite the imagination after this session, start getting that stuff down. It's really powerful to not only see it, but to hear it, but also to write it, to get each part of your brain really firing up and working together collaboratively, so that you can really embed this thinking to make sure that actually the next conversation you have becomes a different conversation with a different perspective, with a different result attached to the end of it. So it's great that we're looking at this. Oh, bear with me. I think I just copied that link into one person rather than everybody. The wonders of technology. Good, and we're in. How many people here, yes or no, as leaders, as coaches, as trainers, have been delivering content and you think it's a super simple idea? It's like real foundational core concept, kind of the stuff that you feel should be being taught at kindergarten. That's for 7-year-olds. Yet you deliver the content and the person just looks at you blankly. How many people have had this? Tumbleweed moments, crickets. And you're like, how can I not make this any more simple for these individuals? Or you teach a content, or you teach a concept, and you teach the content, and the person goes, yeah, I've got it. And then afterwards you go back a day later or 2 days later, and then all of a sudden, they haven't got it. And they're doing exactly what they were doing before. And you're just left wondering, okay, well, how can I simplify this anymore? We use really damaging words like dumbing things down, or even to a point where I'm not even fond of the word of simplifying things. It's really dangerous that we understand when we're using language like dumbing things down, what are we actually saying about the person we're working with? What do you think in the chat box? If I say I'm dumbing things down to deliver this content, what am I saying about you, the individuals watching me right now? What do you think I'm thinking? Steely silence. You're not very bright. And Stuart, we've worked together for some time. Do I think you're not very bright? No, exactly. You're dumb, not to understand, so have to spoon feed you. Absolutely. So if I'm having to dumb things down and I start thinking that you're dumb or I have to spoon feed you, how does the content start to evolve? What starts to happen to my choice of language? How do you start to feel? I know that was comment, you dumb fool. It's really important we understand this. And I've said it before, say it again, and I'll say it a million different times in a million different contexts. What you think of someone is how you treat them. So if I'm having to dumb things down, it's because I think you're dumb. Therefore, the content that I'm going to be delivering is going to be what? Let's be frank here. Dumb, okay? Am I here to dump, water down? Absolutely. Am I here to am I here to water things down for you? If I water things down, am I going to achieve my sole purpose of challenging your thinking so that you can become more incredible than yesterday? Yes or no? If I water it down, dumb it down, think you're dumb, will I challenge your thinking in any way, shape or form that's going to help you get better results? No. So am I going to dumb things down? No. It's understanding that when we're delivering content, when we're having a coaching session or a dialogue with someone, it's the analogy is it's like a train journey. So when I speak to people, I understand I live in Hastings and there's London and there are different stations along the train track that are going to get me to London. And there might be people that are closer to London than I am, to that final destination. But does it make them any better than me if they're 2 stations in front of me, or that there's a person that still hasn't got on the train yet? Does that make us better or worse people? No. It just means that we're at different points in the learning journey, the commute to where we want to get to, the final destination of the learning experience. And I'm aware that because people are at different stations, at different points in their journey, that actually they might need different elements of information. Same as with the train journey. I'm realizing this as I'm saying it and thinking it to you. If I want to get the train from London, from Hastings to London, does everybody get on at the same time if they're getting on at different stations? Yes or no? It's almost, it's a strangely simple analogy to use. We all need different pieces of information in order to get on the train at the right time and on the right compartment in order to connect with the right people to get to our final destination. But if we all turn up to, if someone's 3 stations away from London and they say, just get on the train at 3:30 and you'll get to London, and I'm at Hastings, which is 30 stations away, and I get to the station at 3:30, how much have I just missed the train by? A lot is the short answer. So it's important that we understand when we're looking at people's development, it's the same as a train journey. There are different people getting on at different stations at different points. And what they actually need is different elements of the conversation that is required in order to move them down the train or move them along the journey. But if we get caught up in this premise that actually we need to dumb it down, we need to water it down, oh, you're too stupid or you're too dumb to understand this piece of information. Do you know what? Because I think you're dumb, my content becomes dumb. Therefore, I don't give you all the information. So I'm actually setting you up for failure. All because they're at a different station. All because they haven't had all the different elements of learning. So and as I've said before with feedback, the moment that you judge someone, you cannot influence them. So when we look at the content, if we look at the person and we start to gauge where they are, we can then work out what pieces of information we need to drop in for them in order to move them along their journey to get them where they need to be. But if I give them the information from over here, I disengage them because they're not ready for it. But if I think they're not good enough to receive any part of the information because they're not at this point yet, they're not going to hear what I'm saying either. Is everyone with me with what I'm covering, so the way that I'm approaching this so far? Yes or no, are you with me? This makes sense with you? And those people that obviously aren't answering are obviously too busy checking their Facebook. Are you all with me, yes or no? So, how do we do this? How do we do this? We as leaders and as coaches and as trainers need to get a reality check on where those people are very quickly. We need to listen to their choices of language. We need to kind of triangulate ourselves to them and to the content and work out where they are so we can navigate the route that we're going to take that's going to help get that person from where they are right now to where we all need to be at the end of the conversation. Stephen R. Covey said, start with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Know where we want to go. But he also said in one of the chapters of the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, seek first to understand before making yourself understood. Because if I'm there just banging my head against a brick wall, just telling this person over and over again exactly what's in here, in the belief that they should already know this stuff, then my message isn't going to get across because I haven't worked out where they are in order to give them the critical piece of information, the linchpin that's going to shift them forward. It's got to be like this. Got to be really important. So the first ladder, the competency ladder. You may have already seen this before. This is kind of the bedrock, though, of these concepts. The first part is we want to understand there's 4 stages to this. It's also known as the 4 stages of learning. It was created in the 60s, the late 60s. The first stage is unconsciously incompetent. What does this mean? It means I don't know what I don't know. The regular analogy that's used with this model is it's like driving a car. And if you imagine little Maggie in The Simpsons, she gets in the car in the beginning credits, and she's there with her toy steering wheel bibbing the horn. She has no idea what it takes to drive a car. And much the same with us when we're kids. We would get in the car and mum or dad would be driving, they put the keys in the ignition and car goes vroom, and away the car goes, and just like magic, you arrive at grandma's house. Zero concept of what it takes to drive a car. You don't know what you don't know. You're unconsciously incompetent. But then you maybe turn 16, 17, 18, whatever the age is to drive a car. And then what happens is you get in the car with the driving instructor, and the driving instructor looks at you and goes, so what do you know about driving? And then you all of a sudden you become consciously incompetent. You now know what you don't know. And you're now have the responsibility for 2.5 tons of steel, the driving instructor's life, your life, and all the innocent bystanders that may come into contact with your vehicle on your first lesson. And the terror just floods you. And you're like, holy shit, what now? But then you go through your lessons. The man's very patient with you and he supports you through the journey because you're paying him, obviously, and he's your driving instructor and he wants you to pass at some point in your life because that's what he's doing for a job. That's where he gets his satisfaction from. So then you start to do this, and then you're getting close to the test, and maybe you have your test and you pass, and you're fantastic, I've passed my driving license. And then what happens is you become consciously competent. You passed your test, but you're still clutching the steering wheel, white knuckles, at 10 minutes to 2, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrifying. I don't want to go on the freeway, and I don't want to go on the motorway, and and occasionally you still veer towards the curb when you try to change the radio station or change gear. Everyone with me on this? Yes or no? Does everyone remember veering towards the curb or the car swaying when they went to change gear even after they passed their driving test? Everyone go through this experience? Or is it just me? Am I a terrible driver? But we're consciously competent. We're thinking consciously about what we want to do and what we need to do, and we still do. It's been a while as well, Stuart. It's just about making sure that we're aware of this, but we have to think consciously all the time. And then the final stage is, we've done it for a while, we get in the car, all of a sudden we arrive at work, and we don't remember, well, we're lucky if we remember 10% of the journey. I know obviously there's a few of us haven't driven to work for a while because we've been walking from the bedroom to work, literally. But everyone knows this feeling. So you get in the car and all of a sudden you're at work, and you're like, holy crap, how did that happen? Does everyone know what I mean by this? Yes or no? But up here is unconsciously competent. All the time, autopilot, absolutely this. And autopilot is actually a part of your brain. It's called the reticular activating system, in the basal ganglia area. And this is where your habits are formed, okay? I'm not sure the full neuromechanics of this, but your habits are stored here. Certain things happen, it becomes instinct, it becomes habitual. You don't have to think about it. And the only time you ever notice something is when something's out of context. Maybe they've changed a new advertisement on the side of the road. Oh, you notice that, but you don't notice anything else. So these are the 4 stages of learning. And when you're working with an individual, you need to understand where they are on the ladder in order to direct your questioning, your approach. Because it's really important we do start to see some of this. Everybody at any given time, whether it's a new project, a new skill, a new relationship, is going to be on this ladder somewhere with something. Okay? The ladder is the journey. The ladder's the climbing up. Because the idea is we want to shift each of these runs as we're going step by step, going along the way. But for me, I'm pretty good at growing vegetables. I'm also pretty good at martial arts. I'm also pretty good at coaching. And I'm up here in certain elements of these. But imagine that I go and decide, I'm going to take up playing golf. Well, I'm pretty sure for golf right now, I'm about in this position here. I have no idea what I don't know. And it's the same with people, though, when they're going to interact with a new person or get a new skill or work on a new project, is you may find that they're unconsciously competent at certain things, but you put them in a new environment, a new dynamic, and they rapidly drop down to the bottom. So it's important as leaders and coaches, we understand where our people are working with certain skill sets, working on certain projects. Because regardless of where they are, they're going to be high on some and low on others. And we need to have a sense, have a flavor of where they are so we use the right questions and we use the right approaches. Everyone with me so far on this model? Yes or no? Good. So the challenge is, what is the right language initially? If I'm already unconsciously competent when it comes to a large amount of how I deliver content, a large amount of how I coach people, and one of you comes to me and and you're not a qualified coach, and some of you are qualified coaches and some of you may be watching this, it's absolutely great. And I don't know, maybe you're in project management, maybe, I don't know, whatever job it is you're doing, but you're not a coach and you haven't got any skills in coaching. And you come to me and start telling me what to do or how to operate as a business, how do I feel? How do you think I feel if you start to tell me what to do? Give me some suggestions. Like a child, good. What else? Annoyed, good. Any more suggestions? if people are up here and we start telling them what to do, we just make people feel patronized. We're making them feel like they're sucking eggs, and they will feel frustrated and feel like they're being treated like a child, okay? But if we come down the other end down here, and these people don't know what they don't know, and we start asking questions, how do they feel? How do you think people down the bottom feel? Exactly that. Stupid. So it's important we understand where people are on the ladder, because if we start using the wrong approach, we're going to help people to disengage with us. So it's really important we start to see this. What we have then, or what we need to be able to do, is understand that when people are unconsciously incompetent, or they're in the consciously incompetent, we're giving more guidance. There's a little bit more tell. And we're doing a bit more of the steering. Hope everyone can see that. That's a little bit pale on there. I might change colour. But as the person progresses up here with the direction and with the insights that we're giving, actually, this is where we want to be. Up here, we're asking questions. Because as a coach, is the orange better? It looks a little bit better than the brown. No. Okay, we won't use the orange either. Okay, sorry. Okay, orange pens off. Went for a multicolored pack of, whiteboard pens. That's better. Okay, I'm going to run with that one. We'll stick with purple and red and black. Okay, cool. So at the top, we can ask questions, because even if you don't know how to coach, even if you're not qualified in coaching, if you know what question to ask, or you have a question and you want to understand something, even if I am, a well-versed coach or well-practiced coach, if you ask me a question, that will still stimulate a new way for me to think or approach things. And I don't feel patronized. Actually, I feel encouraged to have a dialogue with you. And I've done this in sales teams environments where I'm working with individuals. I taught them lots of skills and approaches, etc. And then I've just let them get on with it. I'm just observing how they're doing. And then I'm asking them questions about, okay, well, what's working for you? How are you approaching that? And actually, by asking them questions, they're showing me how they're doing things, which actually work better than how I was doing things. And I'm seeing how they're working with different demographics of people, which then gives me new ideas to approach those demographics as well, and helps me to improve my skills. But if I'm too busy going in there and telling people and patronizing, how much do I actually learn? Not a lot, okay? As the saying goes, I don't learn anything from the sound of my own voice. As much as I like the sound of my own voice, I don't learn very much from it, okay? So it's important that we understand where people are on the ladder, so that we can ask questions when they're near the top, and we can give them more guidance when they're down the bottom. Recent example of this is when we were working with our daughter this morning, or yesterday, coming up for her birthday, and starting to understand that actually we were asking her certain questions, and she was getting more and more frustrated because actually she didn't know. She didn't know what she didn't know, because she's 8 and she's just about to become 8 this week, and her emotions are really up here, and she was supercharged by something. She just didn't know what she didn't know. And we were asking questions using different dialogue techniques, but actually we're just causing more frustration, which is making her feel more stupid, because actually she's in this space. So we need to give her a bit more guidance and a bit more kind of a steer, so that actually when she becomes a little bit older, she's already got that in as a skill set. And it helps to shift her up to unconsciously competent and help her grow and develop as a young adult, or moving into young adult or into teenage years. Quick check-in. I know we're hitting up for 1:30. I'm going to show you the next model is going to overlay. What's been useful from this so far that you've seen that you can instantly apply? Let me know. What do you think? What's been useful? What else would you like to include? What else can you take away from this so far? I'm just going to open up the other window. is going to help me do the next part. What's been useful so far from what we covered in the competency ladder? I know now how to frame questions and when to ask and when to tell. Good, 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 good. Start for 10. Fantastic. So the next part I'm going to do, I'm just going to share my screen in a second so you can see the other ladder, and I'll explain how this works and how it overlays perfectly with this concept. Good. Can everyone see my screen? Give me a yes or a no. Great reminder to be conscious about where on the ladder my coach is. Absolutely. And your kids and yourselves and your wives and partners and significant others. Absolutely. There's too many times that we think, oh, this stuff is a given. Oh, this stuff is just the basics. Nothing is just the basics if you've never seen it before. It might be the basics to you because you've got 10 years experience. It might be something completely new, mind-blowing, advanced technique to them. But we've got to make sure we take people on that journey. Good. Everyone can see the ladder number 2, the leadership ladder image. Yes or no? Fire them up. Let's make sure everyone with me. Yes. Good. Yes. Good. Okay. Leadership ladder number 2. This model is by a man called David L. Marquet. Phenomenal thought leader. He was the captain of a nuclear submarine. He created a model or a concept of leadership called intent-based leadership. And I saw this model a few years ago, and it lines up beautifully with the competency ladder framework. And it helps you to start guiding the questions that you're using with the individuals you're working with. And what you can see on either side is one is the language of the team member and the other one is the language of the leader. And you can see where people are at the bottom of the ladder, they want people to tell them what to do. Now, when you get a new job or when you're in probation, the first thing is, oh, tell me what to do. What is it I can do for you right now? And we want that initial guidance. We want that input that's going to help us. But then as you can start to see, as each ladder goes up or each step goes up, we can start to see how the language changes as the person's thinking evolves. And it's always the thinking that creates the language and the language that then creates the alternative action. How many people here have worked in an organization for a few years, and you go to the staff canteen and you start to listen to the conversations in the staff canteen, and you hear, and you can tell the conversation, you can tell the people that have only just started the job. They've maybe been there 4, 8, 12 weeks, and they're complaining about a certain thing. And then you go back 6 months later, and there's a different group of people there that have been there and complaining, or been there kind of 4, 8, 12 weeks or whatever, and they're complaining about exactly the same thing as those previous groups of people were doing. Has anyone seen that or heard that? Always. But it's a shift in thinking that changes the shift in language. If you start thinking at a higher level, your language will start to change and you will start to go to a higher level in your approach. If you look at those people that are working at that space and you look at maybe the people that are 2, 3 pay bands higher, are they complaining about the same thing or are they focusing on something totally different? But actually, if this person that just started their job 4 weeks ago actually put their focuses onto these same things that these people at 2, 3 pay bands higher were focusing on, how much quicker would they move through their career progression and get promoted? Because their focuses are on the same thing as the people that are potentially going to be hiring them. So it's always the thinking that shifts the language, and the language that then creates the actions and habits. Always this way around. So when we look at this ladder here, the leadership ladder, you can see the stages that people go up. So if you look at the team member side there, you can see that tell me what to do is the first step of the ladder. And then after they've been told what to do, they're then going to start, well, I think. And then it's I recommend, and so on and so forth. So I'm just leaving that. I'm not going to go through each of the stages. But you can start to see how the one rung leads to another one, leads to another, and so on and so forth. If you look at then the leadership side, you can start to see the questions in there that are then guiding or supporting the team members' possible next stage of thinking, next choice of language. So if they've been doing something for a while, we've been telling them, well, do this, do this, do this. And they come in a week later, 2 weeks later, and they say, well, what do you think? Oh, no, what do you want me to do? And you say, well, what do you think? Based on what you've done last week, what do you think you need to do today? And then we're starting to spark some ideas. We're starting to spark them to think for themselves. And then we can ask them, you know, once they've done that for a bit, we can then ask them, what do you recommend? Based on what you've done, what you've been thinking about it, what would you recommend in order to move this forward? So we can start to help the person climb the ladder in their own thinking, and all get all the way up to that kind of intention place of, this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing. So we're getting them to be self-initiating and self-motivating using their experiences. 2 things that are really important about this ladder. 1, it's the same as a normal ladder. You cannot jump runs. If you're climbing a ladder and you start trying to go at 2 or 3 runs at a time, what's likely to happen? Physically, if you're climbing a ladder, what is likely to happen if you start missing runs out? You'll injure yourself. Exactly. You'll stumble, you'll fall, you'll trip, you'll panic yourself, and you'll get more frustrated. Now, it's the same, excuse me, when we're working as a leader communicating. If you've only just started your job, and it's your first job in this company, your first job on this project, and I say, what have you done? And you're like, what? I've only just got here. And you start to go into panic, and you will get confused. So it's important that when we're working in this space, we only work 1 rung higher than the level that they're potentially at. So we know where they might be up on the competency ladder. Okay, what language are they using? What language have we been using with them? Okay, how do I get them to take the next run? And it could be in one dialogue. I might ask 7 questions that gets that person all the way up to that top point, really. I want to make sure, though, that I'm helping that person make their journey based on where they are, not where I'm judging I think they should be, or putting that expectation on them, when maybe they may not be there, and I'm just adding more pressure, which causes the frustration, the confusion, and people to fall down and either be mentally or physically injured as a result of this. So we just take people up step at a time, like climbing a ladder. Number 2 thing I want to cover with you, one of the most dangerous questions we can ask when people come to speak to us and they say, oh, Nathan, what about this, this, and this, and this? And then my question being, well, what do you think? The challenge with that question, if it's not used in the right way, is that they're coming to you to ask, ask you to tell them what to do. They're not thinking. So if I say, what do you think? What goes through your head is, well, nothing. That's why I'm asking you. So by asking them, what do you think? What we're doing is we're keeping them stuck in potentially in a bit of a loop that's not going to stimulate new thinking. So we need to be careful how we direct this question. So we may want to start with something along the lines of, what have you been thinking up until this point? What thoughts have you had about potentially moving this forward? I want to make sure that we're picking up core elements picking up core elements of the thinking. One of my favorites, especially when I know people know the answer, and it might not be my area of expertise. I could be somewhere down here, and truthfully, they're probably up there if they applied a little bit of logic. One of my favorite questions to ask in this is, well, if you were me, what do you think I would say? So without giving advice and causing potentially more damage or challenges, I'm getting them to think in a different way that's appropriate for them in their moment. I'm getting them to understand which station on the train journey they're at, and then asking them to put themselves and put their feet in someone else's shoes to get a different perspective, just to change the angle to create a new action in order to move. So just be mindful when we're using that what do you think question. Let's make sure we're picking out key elements so we can help that person keep climbing up the ladder. 138, okay. We've got 2 minutes. Hope that's useful. I hope that has been beneficial to see those two concepts side by side. It's really important we understand this. One, the competency ladder, 4 stages of learning, and also looking at David L. Marquet's leadership ladder and how we get those two together at the same time so we can start building up and have a different set of questions that helps that person go from unconsciously incompetent to unconsciously competent. Bram. Good. Amazing. It's eye-opening for me. Joined for the first time and won't be the last. That is an absolute blessing. I'm grateful for you to be here. Thank you very much. It means a lot. Look, so I'm doing, before I start forgetting, let me know in the chat box. While I get the links for the next session and some other stuff that I do, I want to get those links up for you in the chat box. Let me know what's been useful from this session, what you're taking away from today that you're going to use to influence improvements in yourself and those people around you. And I'll get the other links up. You're very welcome, Stuart. Thanks as always, Nathan. Great content and thought-provoking. Appreciate it. Thanks, nice session, good. So, as you're doing this, some updates on where we are. I forgot to say there is a free PDF download that comes at the end of this, so bear with me. I'll give you the link for the free PDF download in just a second. Right now, today, starting at 4 p.m. GMT, I am delivering a 4-week mini masterclass series called Self-Leadership, which is all about putting you under the microscope, every element of your leadership, your self-awareness, where you're going to, how you're making things happen. We're going to do that over 4 weeks. Okay, that is starting today at 4 p.m. GMT. And I've made it super accessible for everybody as well. It's £247 for the 4 weeks of content. That's 4 90-minute sessions. With a small community group. It's a very intimate ecosystem of leadership development. So I'm going to share the link for that right now. If it's the link for my my online calendar. If you would like to have a conversation with me about the Self-Leadership Masterclass series that's happening today at 4 o'clock starting today, the link is there. Book in. Let's have a 30-minute conversation about your leadership, where you are, where you want to get to. And if it's right for you, we can also have a look at getting you on that program as well. Like I say, I've made it super accessible for everyone. The other thing I wanted to share was the Udemy course as well. I know there's a couple of people in here who have already signed up for it. I have got the best possible price I can get on there right now. I think it's around about 50%. I think it's about $34.99, something like that, on that code there. So there is a link for the Udemy course, which takes you through 2.5 hours of the Grow coaching model with me. Some very different angles and approaches and questioning techniques that are going to help you to get the best results for yourself, as well as the people you're working for or working with. So there's the codes there, etc., to help you do that. And so there are 2 ways there to work with me, either in the small group coaching course for 4 weeks, or you can do it in your own time and your own speed with the Grow coaching model on Udemy as well. Awesome. And then the final one is, here's the link for the free download for today's PDF. So what I've done is I've put in that PDF some of the core content around the competency ladder. You've got a copy of the leadership ladder in there as well, the image that I showed you, and the reminders of how it works and how it's structured. And you can get that. So you can just sign up on the MailChimp link there, and you can download a copy of that PDF directly from that. And that's only for people that watch the live. No one else gets a copy of that other than you people here in this session. So click that link, download your free copy of the PDF. And I hope that's been useful. Got to know about the stages, and we'll ponder on which stage I'm at. Absolutely, Aisha. But bear in mind, you may be at different points on the ladder for different skills and different projects and all sorts. So don't just pigeonhole yourself to say, oh, I'm this or that. No, 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 no. It's important you understand that you're going to be at different places. And also, you know, understanding where you are. Okay, well, what sort of things do I need to incorporate into my day, into my routine in order for me to build that skill set? And key point, mastery occurs at one point on this ladder, and all great masters do something that's really, really interesting. All great masters keep themselves consciously incompetent. Any great thinker or thought leader consciously keeps themselves consciously incompetent. Because the moment they know something, they suddenly realize they don't know something. So instead of going up here and up here, they go up here, they go, I know this, but that means I don't know this. So they go back here. And it's almost like they're on one of those stair climbing machines, the Jacob's ladder things. They just keep going and going, but you never get off these 2 rungs of the ladder because you're constantly developing yourself up to the next stage and then the next stage, but then the rung comes down and I grab the next one. And so you've got to look at your learning like this. The moment you find an answer, you suddenly realize you don't know, there's more that you don't know, which encourages you to go and learn more and develop more and grow more so that you can constantly evolve your thinking and create a bigger impact and do the stuff that you're designed to do in your life. Glad I shared that last bit. Thank you, Aisha, for reminding me. Appreciate it. Hope that's useful. Everyone, have a lovely rest of your day. Like I said, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe, join the mailing list, click the links below. The Udemy link is going to be below in the comments later on, and also my connection to my calendar. For those watching on YouTube, let's start a conversation. Let's make some serious shifts. Can I share the YouTube channel? I'll edit this bit out of the YouTube one, but I will go and find it now. Bear with me. He says, your channel, copy. That's a very good question. It's the one link I did not bring with me for today. There is my YouTube link. I'll edit this bit out of the light of the recording when I put it in. Everyone, thank you for being here. So very grateful. Really appreciate you taking the time to invest in yourself and invest in this content. Let me know how you get on with it. Go and test it out. Go and try it. Send me a message on LinkedIn. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. Drop me a message. Leave a comment on the video on YouTube. Whatever. I want to hear how it's working. I want to hear how it's not working. And I want to be able to help you take that up another level if it isn't working. So I'm going to give you a question so that you can then improve that, develop it, and then go and deliver it. Everyone good with this for today? Yes or no? Good with what we covered? He says yes. Capital letters as well. Crikey. Loved it. Thanks, Stuart. Appreciate it. Everyone, have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you next week for smarter and faster goals. Have a wonderful rest of your day.